You tell me I beat the chair here? Oh my goodness.
It's having a little bit of technical issue there, but now it's fixed. All right. The ominous clock in Val's house.
Yes, we enjoy it at 3 o'clock in the morning.
That's not controllable? That seems like that should be a feature. All right.
And when I broke my knee, we had to sleep downstairs.
All right. Let's see here.
My parents had a clock like that. We used to stop when we stayed there.
Okay.
Just somebody always had to sleep in the living room.
Mine is.
Oh. Okay, are folks ready to start the meeting?
Yeah.
We've been
Waiting
ready.
on you.
Yeah, we've
Oh,
been
sorry.
ready.
Well, it's only 7:01. All right, it's 7:01. Let's call the meeting to order for April 11th, 2022, Bristol Select Board meeting. Thank you all for coming. Call to order. Item 1, a review agenda for addition, removal, or adjustment of any items. I know, Val, you have one that you'd like to add in terms of the water district.
Yes, please. It has to do with the quotes regarding cleaning of the water tank. And Jill, our water operator, received 2 quotes. I emailed earlier and posted to the website her recommendation that we go with M&K Diving for $3,500. But anyway, so this is to add this to the agenda if the select board is amenable, either now or under other business or some other place on the agenda.
Do we need to add this to the agenda if it's that amount of money?
Yes.
I thought, okay. Is
And
it
it's
only
a
up to
contract.
1,000? Oh, okay. What's your pleasure, board? Where would you like to add this? And I know Jill is here with us this evening. Do we want to add it sooner rather than later to allow her to speak about it and then leave if she wants to? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, did we say let's put it right after Gavin, because I know he's outside waiting.
Oh,
Okay. All right, so let's move that to number 2, if that's okay with everyone.
and that's logical because that's dealing with other contracts.
Okay. Let's see. So we're gonna put it in as I guess 2 or 1A. How do you normally do it? I guess I'll do it as
2A.
2A.
1A.
1A. Yeah, because that's.
I would say 1A.
All right.
2A, 2B. Second on the agenda.
Thank you, Bristol Water. Okay. All right.
Ian,
Yes.
this is Sharon. I
Hello,
just want to mention we have the South Mountain liquor license to sign tonight, so we'll need to discuss whether you want to keep the same conditions that are in effect now for their current license, or if you want to add any or take any away.
Okay.
When we get to that point.
Okay. Thanks for the update on that. Appreciate it. All right. 2, overview of Zoom meeting operation procedures, rules for participation. Everyone should have their microphones muted and be recognized by myself, the chair, if they wish to speak. Public forum. This is 5 minutes for anyone who is attending this meeting either in person or online to say anything about something that isn't on the agenda, and that will be 5 minutes. So if anyone wants to speak publicly, let yourself be heard now. No, hearing and seeing none. I see no hands raised. I see no one speaking. Okay, let's move on. Department head roundtable, 5-minute updates for various department heads for the town of Bristol. Let's see who's on this evening. Let's go with.
Eric is here, Ian.
Sorry?
Eric's here with us.
Okay. Let's go with Eric first.
Grand opening.
Look at that. He can roll right up. This is perfect.
Yeah, not much right now. We've started the sweeping sidewalks. He's about halfway done. As far as the street goes, I did finally get a truck to rent. but it's not gonna be until probably the 3rd to the 4th week of April before I can get it. And for everybody that doesn't know, we're down a man. Josh got done, last day was a Friday. So we're down a man. That's about it.
All right, thank you very much.
Well,
Any questions for Eric?
On that point, I can add that we've advertised the position in the Addison Independent in 7 days on the town website and the online platform Indeed.com.
Okay. Good to know. Sharon.
Hi, it's tax week. I will be open on Friday because that's actually when the taxes are due. So I've put a post on Front Page Forum, which hopefully went in tonight, and I'll do another one later in the week. I have my signs out front. We've already been busy, but I'm sure by the end of the week, it'll be a zoo in here when people really realize that taxes are due. I'm also trying to get them to do the dog licenses because we're kind of behind on getting dog licenses done. I did sewer bills today, so those will be going out tomorrow. We're pretty well caught up on land records. We only have a couple more that need to be done, which we haven't received yet to meet the April 1st grand list cutoff. And then our piece will be done and we'll be tracking sales a different way until the grand list is final in the summer. And overweight permits, most of them have gone out. We had a few come in today, so we'll finish those up. So we're moving right along.
Okay. Yeah, I saw it on Front Porch Forum today. Maybe drop it on again, maybe on Wednesday. So it would go
Yeah,
out
that's what I was thinking.
Wednesday evening.
Yeah.
This is a reminder. Okay. Any questions for Sharon from the board? Val?
I can just add that, and we try to make this point year after year, that postmarks are not accepted. The
Correct.
payments need to be received by midnight on April 15th.
Which I did put in the Front Page Forum.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
Bruce, that's a note for you to remind whoever is on Friday night at midnight to stop and take the payments out of the box, and I'll show you where the key is. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Sharon. Let's see, who else is on here? Oh, there's Bruce. Bruce, how's it going with the police department?
It's going well. Just a friendly reminder that with the warmer weather, there's more people out biking, walking. So please watch your speed and obey stop signs.
That's good. And I'm liking the new message on the signs coming into town. Ease off, save gas, or something similar to that. That was good.
Then you were obviously going faster than the 30 miles per hour.
No, that's not true. I was going the speed and I slowed down for that sign to get in. So I was doing okay. So
He was behind someone else.
Yeah.
whoops, I gave myself away. Oh dear. Okay. Any questions? Yes, Val.
Yeah, on that point, I was talking about obeying stop signs. I have to tell you that last week, my dash cam caught somebody running straight through, going from North Street onto West Street. Didn't even stop, didn't look, just went whoop, and but my dash cam caught it. But anyway, just beware, people. You're being watched.
All right. Any other questions for Bruce? Okay, thank you. Brett, Fire Department.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks, Ann. Just a couple of updates, highlights, things worth noting. This past Saturday, the fire department we spent about 3 hours at the station and over at the high school conducting our annual firefighter confidence course and our emergency vehicle driver training course. Certainly, I'd just like to thank the Mount Abraham Unified School District, specifically Devin Wendell, the AD and the activities coordinator over there, for his continued work and support. And always being so accommodating, allowing the fire department to utilize the parking lots at Mount Abe, because we require at least 2 of those large parking lots to conduct this annual Vermont Fire Insurance competency course. So, and I'd also like to thank the Bristol Rescue Squad, who sent down a couple of folks, donated their time to take our vital signs for the annual firefighter competence course. In addition, I would just like to note this past weekend, the fire department was able to provide logistical support to the 5-town partnership food drive by way of use of the NH Munsell. That's our private nonprofit corporation. We have an enclosed trailer that we have to tow our 1936 antique pumper, but it also makes for a great staging area for food drives, so collection area. So that was staged over at Shaw's on Friday and Saturday. Thank you to Peaker for housing the thing at his house year after year, and to Nathan Buska for use of his personal vehicle to tow the thing, delivering it there Thursday night after Shaw's closed, and again picking it up on Saturday and assisting the folks with delivering the food to the food shelf. So just a couple of highlights worth noting. That's all I have, pending any questions.
Great, thank you. Questions for Brett? All right, thank you, Brett. Moving on. Anthony, the treasurer department.
Hi, guys. Biggest update I have is that the fixed asset portion of the audit is completed. It's been signed. We've received our information. I am just waiting on the head auditor to complete her portion of it so that I can sign it as well. Hopefully I will get everything this week and we can begin uploading our fixed assets into the module. That is probably the biggest thing going on right now, besides the other odds and ends that pop up in my office. But that's like the focal point.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
You've
Any
also
questions
been
for Anthony?
spending quite a bit of time looking at various alternatives for budget software.
Yes, I have. I've done quite a lot of research actually in that field as well. And I'm trying to start reaching out to those organizations. There are a couple that seem like they may be beneficial, but they provide more than just budgeting software. So I'd need to go further into that to see how we would fit into that. I've got quite a list going.
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions for Anthony? All right, super. Thank you so much. Do we want to, since Jill is here, do we want an update from the water department? I know we haven't done that before, but Jill's right here. Is there anything to update? Val, what are your thoughts?
Thanks, Jill.
I think it's a great idea,
Okay.
Jill.
I believe that we have a water and sewer budget to put together for an annual meeting for May. So I'll be in the town office. Well, I pop in almost every day, but I'll be in on Wednesday meeting with Valerie and a customer on a particular topic that they would wish to discuss. But we have that. We have the tank cleaning bids to review. We have the sewer inspection that has to be done in April per the permit. We've got a bid, a contract for that to review. I will just kind of speak and say that I am familiar with Steve Palmer, who's here, that you guys are reviewing contracts with. He did work for Green Mountain Engineering for a number of years, and I knew him before that as a client of the engineering firm that I worked for. He was working at, I think, 2 of the different municipalities that we provided services for. So known him for quite a while, and he's quite knowledgeable in water, wastewater, stormwater, all the things that encompass our lives. So I don't know what else we could do besides just let you know, as far as projects in Bristol to complete in this fiscal year for June 30th, we'll be firing up in about a week or so to do fiscal year, a couple hydrant replacements, fixing some curb boxes, fixing some services that are missing tops, etc. Just trying to get through doing improvements while the weather's nice finally.
Okay, Super. Thanks, Jill. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Any questions for Jill from the water department? Hearing and seeing none, we shall move on. Thank you, everyone. Okay, regular business. 1, consider request by Gavin Ashland for approval to clean up the Lord's Prayer Rock Park for a Bristol Scout Troop Eagle Scout project.
Why don't you come on up?
Yeah, come up so the owl can
I
get
don't know
you.
why this camera is staying on me. It's not-
Because
Well, it's
I
not moving.
told it I didn't want to be seen.
See, they can't see him.
Is Gavin present at the table?
He is, he's at the table, but I don't know
He's
why.
got to
this-
talk before it'll.
Yeah, he's
get
got to
it.
speak. Then the owl will find him. Hopefully.
Yeah, why is it staying on me? I'm not saying a word.
Keep turning. There we go.
There he is.
Hey, there he is. Good evening. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah. So do I just go through the proposal or?
Yeah. Tell us what you'd like to do over at the Lord's Prayer Rock Park.
Well, so there's some broken, I guess you would call them cement cap blocks, like that would go around the fireplace. There's some broken ones of those. And then the rock itself has scabs and moss on it. I was looking to power wash that and repaint. And then also replace the caps on the fireplace.
Sounds good. Anything else? I don't know in terms of the condition of the benches there. How do they look?
I was looking at those. I don't know what I'd be able to do with those. Like, I mean, I could sand them down and put like a coat of poly on them, but they're pretty worn out. And I don't know, putting paint over wood that's worn out could cause it to ruin itself even farther than it already is because you're coating it.
Okay. And I don't know if there's any plans to redo those benches in our near future. Michelle or Peeker.
I mean, they just put the picnic table there. I don't know which benches.
Yeah, the picnic table.
Picnic table, that's right. Yeah.
There was the 2 picnic tables. There is a bent hook in the ground. I don't know what it's for necessarily, but it is bent and
No,
hammering.
they used to hook the picnic tables to them. So
I was assuming it was for dogs that they can
No.
just run in there.
No.
But I took some photos of the fireplaces, figured that out. Materials, paint, concrete, blocks, supplies, need safety goggles, face masks, snacks, drinking water, cleaning rags, first aid kit, paintbrushes, brush cleaning buckets and gas for I need a generator and a power washer. Power wash off the rock.
Okay. We have a question from Brett.
What was that?
Brett's got a question.
Oh,
yeah.
You're muted, Brett.
There, sorry about that. I was just wondering if you could clarify again what's in the project proposal for tasks besides the washing and the repainting of the walks, and I heard something about the fireplaces.
Yeah, so the fireplaces, there's it goes over the top of the cinder blocks. Yeah, it goes over the top of those to cover up the holes. And there's a couple that are cracked. I have photos. I don't know if you can see them on this though.
Oh, I'm certainly not questioning what you're proposing. I just want to make sure I understand what's in your proposal. I know some other ideas have come up too, but I also recognize you're under some significant time constraints.
Yeah.
So just hate to have you bite off more than you can actually accomplish in a short period of time.
that was gonna be my suggestion as well. I mean, Ian's looking to have the benches and everything finished, but I think the goal here is to do whatever he has to do to complete his Eagle project and get his, I don't know, is it a badge certification? What is it?
It's, yeah, the Eagle rank, yeah.
So I don't think we want to throw doing the whole park on him if he can do the fire pits and clean and paint the rock.
And cleaning out the ash that's in the fire pits and cleaning those out. Yeah.
If that knows what he has to do to get his Eagle Scout, then I think the other stuff can be a project for somebody else.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was asking. I didn't know if that was already in the hopper, sort of down the line to have those done. Yeah, I wasn't suggesting to add those to the list. I was just sort of curious of the condition. I think it sounds fine. My only concern would be safety around that area, given the amount of traffic that goes around the rock, especially if you're cleaning the rock or if you're repainting, given that the painting is on the very corner. And I don't know in terms of liability, things like that, if you're doing that, the town would obviously be liable, I believe. And so I don't know if we need to set up traffic stops and things like that, just because it's so close to the road.
Were you talking about repainting the rock?
The lettering.
Yeah, just the lettering. So he's not going to be out on the corner, I don't believe.
True, but it's still, that's a surface that's an angled surface. Getting up there and to repaint, I would just be concerned about, I would be concerned of myself doing that, let alone letting someone else do that. So I don't know how it's been done before, what's happened in the past when it's been redone, who's done it.
Connie was talking with me and like putting a ladder up on the rock face. So you climb up and down and then paint the lettering.
How long do you think this is gonna take you? That's my question. And when do you think you're gonna start?
I want to start as soon as possible because there is the time constraint. The fireplaces, as soon as I get the supplies, I can get those done and started and finished within at least an hour. The power washing, I'm not really sure. I was talking with Connie and she was talking to, I think, her brother about a power washer to be able to use. And that would have to be done by an adult, she said, because it's a power washer. Getting that done, I'd say it'd be at least a day and a half of getting everything tidied up and finished.
When do you have to have it done?
Before May 11th.
You may run out of time to be able to paint it.
Do you have an adult to help you with that? Do you have
I was talking with Connie. She said that she'd be fine helping with things like getting scouts helping. I was planning on having scouts helping me.
But you said we needed an adult with the power washer.
Yeah, an adult with the power washer.
Do you have someone lined up for that?
Yeah, he does. Me.
Okay.
Oh.
Okay.
I told Connie I help out with power wash.
Great.
Okay.
Great.
I have one.
Okay.
Okay, Brett, you had another question?
Just wanted to ask, is there been consideration given to a water source for the pressure washing?
I wasn't sure on the size of the tank on the power washer. I was thinking about hose and bringing a couple gallons down in like a 5-gallon bucket with the cap and stuff.
You'll need an established water source, either from a static source. You'll need much more than a couple of 5-gallon buckets of water.
Okay.
So just something to think about.
Okay, thanks, Brett. Also, Richard Butts in the comments mentioned the rock needs to be dry, obviously, before it's painted. So we'll have to sort of plan out accordingly. Okay.
So this is Brett again, if I may, just one last
Sure,
question. I'll just put it right out there. So if this young man is in a situation, would the select board consider Gavin utilizing, under the direction of the water department, use of the town's water?
I don't see an issue with that. Board?
I'll drop off.
I don't see a problem with that.
Okay. Question from Jill?
We have a 300 gallon water tote that has a
Say yes.
valve on it that we could let him borrow. I was wondering how he was going to get water in his pressure washer too.
Say yes, Gavin.
Okay.
Just let us know the date it needs to be dropped off down there.
Okay. Perfect. Yeah. So Gavin can coordinate with Jill and Cy on that. Anything else, Select Board? Any other questions for Gavin?
Yeah, my only concern is you may not have time to paint it, just
Yeah.
given the weather that we have and the rain, and the sun doesn't hit there very often, so.
Yeah.
We've got exactly a month, right?
Yeah, you may have to like nail on that piece. But
Well, I make a motion, we allow him to proceed with fixing the fire pits and washing and painting her off.
Second.
Okay. All right. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
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 No, you can't vote.
All those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Motion carries. Thank you very much. I appreciate your service for that.
Thank you.
thanks, Gavin.
Thank you.
Good
Good luck
luck.
with your project.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Joel. You can come back up here.
All right.
We could put our own trailer and all that up again.
Yeah, that would be all set.
Yeah, we'll be all set.
Okay.
Joel would still have to run it.
Yes, yes.
Are we on to
Are there any objections to Eric? Our pressure washer is all self-contained, has a tank, he has a tank on the trailer and everything. Is there any problem with him hooking that up and having Joel use that?
It's
I don't
town
think so.
equipment on town property.
Yeah. I think that would be acceptable.
That would make life a lot easier. You wouldn't have to wouldn't have to get a generator and and the water source is right on the trailer with it.
Okay. Yep, that sounds good. I'm fine with that.
Easier, Gavin.
Got you out of that one, Si.
Yeah, I was wondering about that. I was looking at the gas prices and I was like,
Yeah.
well, what does a regular generator take for gas?
Oh, it's 100 gallons minimum.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, have a good night.
All right, thank you. Okay, moving on. This is our the Bristol Water District cleaning of our,
The inside of the tank,
thank you, inside of the tank.
right?
All right.
Where does all the dirty water go when they clean the inside of the tank?
Hmm.
In your closet?
Down into our taps. That's right.
They have a it's kind of like a trash pump that they use with a vacuum head on it, and so the trash pump head is inside of the tank and the diver is down there with it. It
Put it in the
pulls it up
reservoir.
out of the tank and it just drains down onto the lawn.
Oh.
Oh, they put it in the reservoir. Cyrus knows more so than I. He watched the last set of divers do the tank 5 years ago. That's the tricky
So-
part is we don't have tankless mode, so it's always diving the tank to inspect and clean it.
So looking at, we've received 2 estimates, and there's obviously quite a price difference between them. Jill, you said you'd had familiarity with one of the companies, which is the cheaper estimate.
Yeah.
It's quite a difference. It's not like it's just a small amount. So I'm wondering, is there?
That bid is exceptionally good. So
Okay.
there's a tank a quarter of that size that they bid at $4,500 last year. So I saw that bid and was like, yes, it's a great bid.
And
The
we're
other bid is
confident in
they're
that bid.
traveling-
They didn't underbid or I mean.
So this particular company focuses primarily on doing dams lots of work with dams. And so they infill their early season before the dams are ready for service with cleaning water tanks as just kind of a, fill in a couple weeks in the spring. So it's not really their revenue maker. It's just kind of in a way, a really nice thing that they do for our water systems to be so highly certified with these divers and all this very fancy equipment, and to really kind of give us some pretty good pricing on some pretty technical skills.
Okay. Board, any questions for Jill regarding the two estimates?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch the first part. Who are you gonna go with, the low bid of 3,500? Jill, is that right?
That would be my preference. I don't know the other company very well. It's just that other company is who the manufacturer of the tank had recommended as another local company, which they're not super local.
The
They're
one
out of
over in New
state.
York.
Yeah.
Was the one over New York, lake somewhere? Yeah. Well, I read both proposals. I thought the 3,500 was well received. And I
Well,
make,
if our water operator is comfortable with the cheaper one of the two, then I'm comfortable with the
Yep.
cheaper one of the two.
yeah, I'm
Okay.
make a motion then, or no?
Yeah,
I'll make a motion that we go with a recommendation of our water operator for $3,500. I don't know the name of it. It slips my mind right now.
M&K Divers.
MK Divers. Okay, thank you, Jeff.
second.
All right. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Seeing and hearing none. All those in favor say aye, or raise your hand.
Aye.
All those against, nay. Motion carries. Thank you very much. When are they scheduled to do that, Jill?
We haven't scheduled because we didn't have a signed move ahead. So now we'll
Okay.
schedule. I'll
I
give
didn't know
them
if there
an
was a
email and a
date
call
set.
tomorrow.
Fantastic. Thank you, Jill. Appreciate it. Okay. Let's get my time here. Moving on. Consider annual landfill, wastewater system, and fire station stormwater inspection contracts with VTM Engineering, PLC, as well as for general routine engineering services for the town. May include deliberation in executive session. Val.
Great. Well, as I mentioned in my notes, a couple years back, the select board, I believe, made a decision that these annual contracts for such low dollar amounts didn't need to come before the select board regularly. And so last year, I don't believe they did. And I approved them administratively. But these are before you tonight because, as we know, Green Mountain Engineering has closed its doors, and Steve Palmer has offered, and he's currently collaborating with Alan Heinziger, as Alan's been trying to transition out of Green Mountain Engineering, and they collaborated on projects in the past, and Steve is very familiar with Bristol's the stuff going on in Bristol. So he has offered to pick up those inspections at the same rate that Green Mountain Engineering had done them in the past. Granted, Green Mountain Engineering probably was doing, he was being extremely generous with his time with those rates, but Steve has offered to do that at least for this year. So those are the contracts for the fire station, landfill, and wastewater system. And I'm suggesting that the select board consider authorizing a contract for Steve to also serve in a general way on routine engineering types of activities, like dealing with wastewater and stormwater and water system inquiries that we happen to have from throughout the year. We don't have a specific contract drawn up for that, but it would probably look a lot like the ones that are shown here for the inspections at an hourly rate. And Steve is tuned in case you have any questions, and just to put a face to the name.
What does the VTM
Okay,
stand for,
excellent.
just so that
Steve, where are you on my screen here? I'm gonna find you. There you are. Hi,
Good
Steve.
evening.
Why don't you
Hi,
introduce
how are you?
yourself and we'll have a little chat.
Thank you. Steve Palmer. I'm a local Vermonter. Grew up here. Went to school here. I'm a Champlain Valley Union High School graduate, Vermont Tech graduate, University of New Hampshire graduate. Worked in Vermont the great majority of my life. I did a tour around the United States for about a dozen years. working for a couple of different firms. Came home, it was about 2002, and went to work for the city of Winooski as the city engineer and public works director. I took over and co-managed the downtown Winooski development project or redevelopment project. That took a few years off my life, but it was a great project. It was enjoyable. As you can see today, it's reinvigorated the city. It really helped, I stayed there for about 10 years. It really helped me gain a different perspective from the municipal side. And I think it's made me, in a lot of ways, a much better engineer, at least for my municipal clients and things that I'm able to help them with on a daily basis. I left there, I got a great opportunity. I left and went to work with a friend of mine at a startup company. And I spent about 5 years there as the vice president of engineering. And we took a company from a $0 a year revenue company to about $50 million a year in 5 years. It was extremely successful. The downside for me is I was on the road 6 days a week and working 90 hours a week. And I have 2 little girls that were 4 and 5 years old. And I said, this isn't really working out well for family. So I left, and I had done a bunch of work with Alan while I was at NG. Alan did a bunch of design and permitting work for us, and he and I had a very good working relationship. So when I left, Alan came to me and offered me a job, and I said, this is great. It's 12 miles from home, and I really wanted to get back into the design side of the world, which I hadn't done for a while. So I've been with GME for about 3 years, a little over that. I really enjoy working with Alan. I think Alan would probably say the same about me. We get along extremely well. We think the same way. We both have our strengths, I think, and we probably work off from each other better than most folks would realize. But it's really been enjoyable, and it was disappointing to me, obviously, when GME closed. And Alan and I still have a great working relationship. And as we were folding a lot of these clients down, I talked to Alan. I said, look, my goal is to take 5 or 6 clients with me. And that's all I really want to do. I'm not interested in having a ton of employees. I have a number of clients that I've worked with for the last 3 years. And a lot of those folks called me up immediately and said, okay, what are you doing? So I said, all right, I'll figure out a solution for you. So I've opened my own company. I'm working collaboratively with Alan on some of the things that we're wrapping up. Alan and I have had some discussions about where we're headed in the future. Part of that really is up to him. Bristol was one of his biggest concerns in terms of where, Bristol landed, and a lot of the institutional knowledge for the town is really with Alan. And he and I have had a lot of discussions about that. So where we end up with that, we're certainly collaborating on wrapping up the projects that are out there. I'm hopeful that once he takes a break for a little while and catches his breath, that we'll be able to do some projects jointly together as well, whether it's through VTM or whether that's with GME. It doesn't really matter to me. I don't think it does for the town either. You guys, I believe, all have a great relationship with Alan. I think some of the things that I bring to the table for you guys, I prepared, Alan's been the face of GME for the town of Bristol. However, behind the scenes, I put together the majority of the preliminary engineering report. Jill and I worked on quite a bit of that stuff together. So for your water system, that preliminary engineering report that was done, I'm very familiar with that. I conducted the water system design for Pine Street. Alan and I are completing the stormwater design for Pine Street as we speak. Whether I complete the annual inspections for you folks, I'd love to do that work. Alan and I will collaborate on that if that's what you folks decide you'd like to do. I bring, I think, a local knowledge of, state politics, which is really important to local communities. And I've got great relationships with those folks. All of your funding's coming through the state and federal government. So I think it's really important to have those relationships. And affordability, I think you'll find, I'm not going to talk about what my rates are on Zoom, but I think Val can talk to that. I don't know if people have other questions other than things I've offered, please feel free to ask.
Ask your question, Beaker.
I still want to know what the VTM stands for, please.
Well, I'm actually a maple producer, and I'm finally catching up on my sleep, thank God. So it stands for Vermont Maple. I couldn't come up with a better name.
Right.
Well, all of it sounds very positive. I'm not hearing any negatives, which is great. Obviously, we were disheartened to hear that Alan had to close, but to be able to have you pick this up seems like a huge win for us, given your past working relationship with him, as well as with Jill and our water department. So I'm not seeing any negatives there. I don't know if Board or Val, do you have any other questions for Steve?
I would offer too, and I probably forgot to mention this, Alan has offered any resources that he has from GME to me and to the town, if they're helpful. And I think moving forward, there's a ton of institutional knowledge there, and plans and designs and things that have been done over the course of years and years that I think will be really helpful for you folks.
Yep, I agree. Val?
Oh, I agree. I think this is a marvelous opportunity and a very fortunate opportunity because we don't have a plan B.
Shh, don't tell anyone that, though.
Oh, man.
You said the quiet part loud. No, this looks great. And I don't know, Board, if you have any further questions for Steve, or if you're willing to make motions in terms of accepting the contracts for the various things that need contracts in this area.
Yeah, I move we enter into contract with VTM to do our wastewater, landfill, and stormwater inspections.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. Any further discussion? Any other questions? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor say aye, raise your hand. All those against, nay. Motion carries. Excellent.
And
Thank you, Steve.
would the select board consider a second motion regarding a kind of authorizing him or appointing him as to provide general engineering services, an annual contract, a renewable annual contract on an hourly rate?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second.
Just a question on that, Valerie. That's just kind of general, if you've got an engineering question, not so much of, okay, we're gonna do another street, let's say, or a couple more streets. That's not part of it then, right?
Right.
It
That's
doesn't
a more
preclude us
in-depth.
from going out to bid.
Doesn't preclude us to go in it, right? Okay, yeah, I'm fine with it.
Great. All right, any other questions on this motion? Seeing and hearing none. All those in favor say aye, raise your hand.
Aye.
All those against, nay. Motion carries. Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone. Thank you,
And
Steve.
thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Okay.
Sally's got a question, Ian.
Oh, Sally, you had a question.
Yeah, I am just wondering how the two VTUMs and VTM, where do they cross paths or not in things like water engineering? I'm just thinking of the Energy Committee was wondering, how can we save money on water and all that? And Jill had a good conversation with Ben. And so is that anything that Steve is involved in, or is that just Jill's area? Or what? How does that cross over with another engineer around water?
I can speak to that. So I did actually have a further conversation with somebody from Efficiency Vermont about a different program that doesn't limit the hours to an unreasonable number of hours and possibly put us in a shortage of water. So there is a further presentation that'll come and partner. I don't know partner, but there is something that Efficiency Vermont has that could work. What that could look like with Steve as an engineering consultant for you guys. So Cyrus and I and VTEMS, we're water operators, water and wastewater operators. So we're not engineers. I did work for an engineering firm, for 3 of them actually, for most of my career. So my entire background was working with clients on their water, wastewater, and stormwater projects from the perspective of being a member of an engineering firm. And then in 2015, we switched hats and said, let's get out there, let's run them, let's take care of them, let's give them, more attention than they've ever had. So I knew Steve back then as one of our clients, a client of the engineering firm. And now he, just leaving Green Mountain Engineering and having his own firm, will continue, it sounds like, to provide some continuity from this transition from Alan to Steve, so that we don't lose this great amount of mapping and this great amount of knowledge between the water maps and the sewer maps, etc. So to connect your question, when we talk about energy upgrades and reducing energy consumption at the water pump house, it's a bigger question, because if you're going to try to pump more water at a lower rate, you need a bigger contact tank, you need different size piping, you need a bigger storage reservoir. So when you talk about, oh, I want to save money, you have to spend a good amount of money to save money, because you're changing your design concept. And we are a 1995 water pump house, which is about 27 years. What typically is done with water treatment facilities and wastewater treatment facilities is they get a 20-year evaluation. We're at 27. So we're kind of in like our, we should be probably doing some kind of evaluation of the facility's effectiveness and look at it as a whole picture, and not just throw a VFD in or throw some, oh, let's just pump water from midnight to 4 a.m. That's not enough hours to make water. And
I won't leave the town at a deficit no matter what.
Yeah. And
Sorry.
Cyrus and I feel pretty strongly about not having, it's pretty important to have 2 days worth of storage, and to say, let's save some money on power and put the town at a deficit of water leaves you, not able to fight a fire, not able to have backup storage for if an emergency occurs, etc. So, the whole safety of the water system and continuity of how it's designed to operate have to be thought of in trying to do the bigger picture of saving energy and etc. And it doesn't really actually save energy, by the way, to change your pumping hours. It saves cost. It doesn't change the efficiency of the pump, because you choose to pump it from 12 to 4. And what the gentleman from Efficiency Vermont was explaining was that now that solar has entered the grid, the shape of the energy being produced has changed. And so there's actually hours from like 3 in the afternoon to 7 at night that will produce lower energy rates. Again, that doesn't reduce energy consumption. That would be a whole nother exploration that would probably involve Steve and Efficiency Vermont in a design upgrade. Does that help?
Yeah, that's great. I'm just thinking also, with money coming in, it seems like the time for really checking it out, so we could maybe get grants if there was going to be a big upgrade or some kind of infrastructure money, that kind of thing.
Yeah, to me, the first wave of money that's in there, which is what are those letters, Valerie?
ARPA.
The ARPA is actually kind of tiny comparatively. The infrastructure bill, which will be a 5-year bill, is far more significant, and that's what I would think we should target. And I think we should target the facility and the water system as a whole. And also probably pull in RCAP to try to help really crank out that eligibility. And Steve could speak to the state programs, the federal programs, and also utilizing a program like RCAP to try to pull some of the painful paperwork off of Steve.
Infrastructure in the ground is old as well.
Yeah, we've got a lot of 1905 water lines to be thinking about as well. So if we're pumping water just to pour it out before everybody's services, that's another argument. So there's lots of pieces.
Well, thank you very much for helping me understand and see how everyone matches up and all that. It's great. Thanks a lot.
No problem.
Great. Thanks, Jill. Thanks, Sally. Okay, let's move on to item 3 at 7:50 here. Continued consideration of East Street and Park Place sidewalk replacement bids. Select a contractor. May include deliberation and executive session. Val.
I do recommend that the select board discuss this in executive session. We have some new information on some of the responses, and one of the bidders has withdrawn.
Okay. The board agrees?
Yes.
Okay. All right. We will discuss that and move that to executive session later on this evening. Let's see what's next. Oh, it's me. Number 4, review and consider installation of new town welcome sign design. So, a number of meetings ago, I said that I would like to, well, we had a complaint about the condition of the town welcome signs.
Several, actually.
She said just move, but then she did.
And several complaints. And I'm one of those people who would complain, driving by them and noticing how decrepit they looked, just because of the amount of time they've been up. They've been excellent signs, but they were put in 1999, so they're pretty old. So I said, after my father and I worked on doing a little bit of refurbishment for the town office sign, just building a new frame, since he and I have a workshop out at his house in New Haven, I said, hey, I'll tackle those town signs. It's been something that I've had on the list of Bristol Core for a long time, and I thought, well, I'll move it over to the select board now that I'm on the select board, and I'll work on it. I talked to a couple of people I know in Bristol, Brad and Rebecca, who have a company and specialize in design. And I'd worked with them before, and I said, would you be up to the challenge of putting together some designs for a new welcome sign? And what I can do is I can sort of share with you the process. I've been back and forth. I've gotten feedback and comments from other people, and we moved ahead, and I'm going to present the final design tonight, and hopefully people like it. But I can also share sort of the process of where we started and what the signs currently look like, just for the viewing audience. Let me open a couple pictures here. Let's see. Let me open these. All right. Let's see if I can share. Where are we? Here we go.
I did make you a co-host.
Okay. Thanks. Hang on one sec. Gotta set up some preferences here on the computer. Come on. Bear with me.
You need me to come help you?
No, I'm almost there. Well, maybe not. I might need you to come and help me. Let's see here. Let's try this. So I can't actually see the preview, but I'm hoping it's this. If it's not, I'll share again. Oh, good. It is that. All right. So this is what the current sign looks like. This is coming up from the west, sorry. And then here's another one. What? Yes, thank you. And then coming in from the east. Or do I have that backwards? No, that's right. So the signs, we have 3 signs, and they're all the same design and the same way mounted in the same structure. I think the majority of the structure looks pretty good, and what I'm proposing to do is just replace the sign itself. So that's what they currently look like. This one is
The posts are all in good shape, Ian?
Say that again?
The posts are all in good shape?
They seem to be in good shape. They definitely need a scraping and some new paint, but I don't see any rot down the bottom. But I'll investigate that and make sure that's not the case. If it is, then we can create some new posts and paint them and put them in the ground again, maybe with help of the Public Works Department or someone else. I'm not sure who originally worked on this. It was the Rotary Club. The Outlook Club, sorry, that put them in initially. and I'm not sure who worked with them on actually doing the installation and driving them into the ground. But yeah, I'll look and make sure that the posts are, if they're still usable, I think we'll just reuse them. And then just replace the signage itself, which is fairly, they're all, three are just on a painted plywood, and they're screwed in from the front to a couple of horizontal pieces at the back. So it's a fairly easy thing to be able to take them off and quickly do a switch. So there's the, that's what they look like now. And let me see if I can present a couple of the presentations that Everest James put together, which is Brad and Rebecca here in town. All right, let's see if we can share these. There we go, good.
They designed the rec department logo.
Oh, really? Ah, great. Yeah, they've done a lot of good work. So this was the first presentation. I'll just nip through. That's actually a close-up of the sign coming up Stony Hill. So they initially had a couple of different proposals. And it was working on the idea that the text was going to remain the same as well as the chartered, but we were going to change this sort of center image. If you're close to the sign, you can see what the center image is. Most of the time you're not, because you're driving by, it's hard to see. And so we wanted sort of a revision of that, but also keeping the idea of the mountains behind. So Brad and Rebecca came up with this concept in terms of either the silhouette style with a single one color, or moving to 3 mountains, which is obviously coming in from this direction. And then they went ahead with just 3 different colors to differentiate the mountains. I like this one, but I felt that in terms of legibility, this would be great if it's a printed thing that you're holding. On a sign, I feel that even though this relief kind of is nice to see, you're not going to be able to make it out of the distance that each of the signs is. So I said, let's move ahead with this revision. I gave a few comments in terms of color, in terms of the font, and then they did a second revision. And I can share that now. And I had minimal comments sort of all the way through. I think their work was really solid, and it sort of really captured what we were looking for, or what I was looking for. So then they did the next revision. This was the originals. And my feedback was just typeface kind of design. I wanted to explore in the 3 locations, can we look and see a different mountain silhouette? Is that something that is interesting? And then also different background colors. Most of our sign is on white. Do we want to keep that? Do we want to explore something else? So here's some background color studies. They've got an off-white, a pure white, and a blue. I wasn't really a fan of the blue. I liked the off-white, or the warm white rather, and then the pure white was nice. Sort of this, the middle one keeps with our sign that we have now. This is a sans serif font. I wasn't a really big fan of that. This is a more contemporary kind of look, more modern. One of the comments and feedback that I got was this kind of looks like state signs, and I didn't really want to have that feeling. The serif font is obviously more traditional, and I thought we should stick with that. And then we're taking a look at the mountain range studies. So for the 3 different directions, you would be a silhouette of the mountains coming in. After looking at these, I felt that number 1, or the one on the left, is the strongest. It's the most sort of recognizable, and I didn't think that if you're coming in from 2 other directions, whether you would notice or realize what we were trying to do with the sign in terms of having just the mountain range silhouettes that you would see. So I said, let's stick with this 3 with the different colors, since it's sort of the most iconic. And there you go. And then this is the final one, which was included in the packets. Let's see, where is that? Share this again. And there we go. So that's the final design. I stuck with just the pure white. That's what a lot of the sign is now. It's slightly easier to produce. But I swapped out the font up here on a couple of their examples, stuck with the serif font and then kept the 3 colors and kept obviously all the wording the same. We've got a little bit more of a design around the edge, sort of framing it. And this would be the size that you see in that original sign. We've put screws sort of in the places that it would hit. I have to double check in terms of screw placement where it would hit in terms of seeing the text for Gateway to the Green Mountains. But this would be the new sign. And then the next stage is sort of to produce these and create them and then mount them on the actual, in the location. And I did a little mock-up. Let's just share that quickly of what that might look like. Let's see here.
Ian, is the plan to put them on plywood again, or is
Well,
it
so
gonna be paint?
that's the next thing. We have a couple of options. Here we go. Let me just share this. So that's just a mock-up in place of what it might look like with the new sign.
You didn't paint the poles.
And there you go. So yes. So then in terms of production of these signs, there's a couple options. In my mind originally, I was going to create them myself in the shop. I have a machine that I can cut out the letters and I would hand paint. The trouble is that it's a lot of time to do that, and I don't have a lot of time. I like the idea of it, and maybe it's something down the road when I get more time. But I think the easiest thing is just to produce them and have a print shop do them. I've spoken to Greg over at 802 Print in Virgins, since he does this kind of thing. There's a product called Dye Bond, which is what a lot of signage is made or is printed on. And essentially it's comes in different thicknesses. You can get 1/4 inch, which is a fairly decent weight. It has 2 sheets of aluminum, one on each side, and in between is sandwiched like a plastic material. It's designed for interior and exterior. So he would essentially print on vinyl, large format vinyl, full color. We'll be able to test and make sure that the colors match and that it looks how we want it to look. And essentially the whole thing would be printed. It would be printed square. It's 43 inches wide and actually 43 inches tall, and then you have that curve. So he would print it on a square piece. My father and I would take it and we would route the actual curved part of it, which shouldn't be an issue. And then it's printed on vinyl. The vinyl is put on the aluminum, and then it's laminated over, so it seals it for weather. And you know, it would be there for probably decades. It's designed to be outside in the weather. And then we would take those pieces and then we would drill holes through, and then we would mount them on the town signs or the hardware that's already there, the posts that are already there. So there we go. So that's what I've been working on. I don't know if the board has thoughts or comments on the design and the direction that we went in, but I'm eager to hear them.
I don't know, I like the sign. I kind of like the color, the different colors in it, even though you say you can't see it. I mean, I always pay attention to the sign when I come in. I may not know what it looked, what the picture was, but it was always the colors that caught my attention.
Yeah, in terms of that, I like the texture, and that was my choice. And then just looking at the distance and driving by the sign again, I realized that it probably wouldn't resolve. You wouldn't see that kind of detail in the sign. And so just going with the solid 3 colors at least gives us that mountain range, allows you to have that definition of the 3 different distances. But it's a more visual sign that you're just driving by at speed. Any other questions or concerns?
I'm happy with the design. I do know that in my conversation with Sylvia Coffin that we had a 3-year permission to put the sign there, and it's been there since. And did say to her that before we put anything new up, we would run the design by her and make sure it was acceptable.
Okay.
For the one on her property. I mean, she doesn't have a problem if we move it off of her property, but it's there, and I don't know what the arrangements are with the other property owners, whether it was the same deal, a 3-year. So we probably ought to check with them. I can't believe that they're not going to be all right with it, but I think we should check with them before we just go ahead and change the signs.
Okay. So Sylvia Coffin is one. The one by Stony Hill, who would that be?
I don't know if that's on Lathrop's or if that's on the, can you, if you,
Terry Thomas, isn't that?
Terry Thomas's old property, the old Busybody's property.
So it's probably Aaron or his brother.
The other one would be Trent Rollo.
Trent Rollo, the other one.
Trenton Abbey. Okay, Gateway.
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess
Yeah.
I'll have to ask, I'll ask about the one up by Sylvia's. If you're coming into town and, well, I guess you won't come into town. You come down to Moncton Road and go over Burpee and head out and down 116, should we move that sign up further north towards Moncton? Just a thought.
Yeah, I mean, would the hills allow you to put it on their property?
Well, I was thinking even further up.
I mean, I don't think, they might not have a problem with it, but I just think the equipment is so big that
I don't want it on.
it might be problematic.
Right.
I mean, the others are considerably like bottom of Stony Hill. That's way into the town,
Yeah.
into the town limits. The same with, I think the idea the Outlook Club had is just what you were saying, is as you enter the core of the town.
Who the hell cares about the outsiders?
Yeah. Who cares about Stonewall Drive?
I mean, yeah, the only one. The only one in terms
dead
of
trees up there.
You don't.
Hold on.
the only one in terms of moving that I thought, well, there was two. There was one, Stony Hill. There was discussion a little while ago about just in terms of getting more people at seeing the town and getting them to Bristol if you're not familiar with the area. And so moving the one on Stony Hill closer to the intersection right there. And then it's kind of in the middle of that, not in the middle, but it's like on the edge of that field right there. But at least if you're driving by, you would see the town sign, know that there's a town up in that direction. Whereas if you didn't know the area at all, maybe you wouldn't know that. But then it's kind of like this sign right there, sort of in the middle of nowhere. And I like it kind of tucked behind. So that was one discussion. And then my only other issue in terms of looking at this and doing this project is the one on Trenton Abbey's property. It looks great under the tree, but unfortunately, just in front of it, there's a state speed sign. And so it sort of takes away from the town side. It didn't used to be there. I think it was maybe made in the last, 5 or 6 years that got installed. But I'd like to keep our sign where it is because I think it sits really nicely by that tree. But I don't know what the potential is for just moving that state speed sign slightly forward or away from it in any direction, just to help in terms of eyeballs seeing the town sign versus trying to fight against the two of them.
Well, nobody pays attention to that speed sign anyway.
There's probably some law or code in the transportation. How many feet it has to be to warn you to start slowing down before you gotta be there. So moving it back up north, it would be probably not kosher to them.
Yeah.
Well, it wouldn't hurt to ask. I mean, Val, the woman you spoke with at AOT, would she be the one to at least start with?
Right.
And if you think about putting that one down closer to Daniel's Four Corners, you then have to have it two-sided though.
Correct.
So you can see it from all directions.
That's true.
Yeah, and we could produce a fourth sign that could sit on the back of that if we needed to. I would probably, if we wanted to go in that direction, I'm totally fine with that, and I can mock it up and what it might look like. And obviously, we need to talk to the landowner. But I kind of like the placement now because it's sort of in its own little area with the trees there. Stuff does fall in it because there are trees above it, but at least it's situated nicely. It's just not as far out. And I don't know if people traveling, so many people have smartphones that you know exactly where you are and where you're going. I don't know if people are driving by and thinking oh, there's nothing up there, I won't go that direction. That's probably not the case. Maybe it was 10 or 15 years ago, but probably not anymore anyway. So
I would say just the opposite. I would say if you were 10, 15 years ago, if you were looking at a map, you're going to stay on the state roads, you were going to come into town. And today, the same with today. If you're not a local, you don't know that road cuts up through to Heinsberg.
Yeah,
you're going to stay on the state road. So I don't really
see they use their GPS or their phone
today.
Yeah.
Today,
right.
But I just don't. I don't necessarily think that moving it's going to gain what you're hoping for. I think where it is probably a better location.
Okay, that sounds fine. In terms of cost, I got a quote. It's around $200 per sign to have them printed. My cost in terms of doing the cutting and installation would be nothing, but we do have a slight cost to be able to do the printing. If we went the direction where it's a fully cut sign, again, I would comp my labor, but it would be materials. For the material that we would use, which is an exterior MDF type of material, medium density fiberboard, it's maybe $150 per sheet, and we'd need 2 sheets. So it's a little more expensive and more time consuming if I do it where it's a hand cut sign, which I love the idea, but again, it's like the hours to do that. Or it's about $200 per sign if we get it printed at 802.
Isn't the maintenance gonna be more if you do the hand cut? Are they gonna have to be, is there gonna be more upkeep? Because the vinyl, like you said, the vinyl's gonna last for years.
Yeah, they definitely, I could paint it. I created Melissa's sign, recycled reading. That's been gone up, for about 2 or 3 years now, and it's exactly the same as it was when we put it up. So, it's an exterior paint. You can also finish it and varnish it, and seal it in. Eventually, it might have issues. And one of the issues that I ran into is sort of with this design is that I like the idea of doing relief in terms of one mountain further back than the other, and that runs into issues that then there are gaps and areas where rain could sit and create problems. So you're right. The vinyl sign, even though it doesn't have sort of the handmade look, because it's vinyl in one flat thing, it probably will last forever. And it's probably the way we should go. And if it's something where I don't think this, if people see it and don't like it for some reason because it's vinyl, but I can't imagine that happening because you're probably not even going to tell, because most signs are vinyl that you see everywhere. It's probably not going to be an issue. And I'll make sure that, he can do a test print and see what it looks like, and, coming out of the printer, and make sure we get what we want to get.
Ian, if you want to see one of those vinyl signs, Greg did one for us at 802 did for Heinsberg Commerce Park Association.
Okay.
As you go into right there across from the fire, as you go into the mobile and our bank and all those units in there.
Okay.
The one that says Heinsberg Commerce Park. He did that about, it's going on 4 or 5 years now, and it's still in beautiful shape.
Okay.
And he did it too. And he did the one on the Moncton Silver Street coming into Moncton. We're coming into Heinsberg. He did that one. We use the same design at Lake Iroquois.
Okay. All right. That's good. It seems like that's the way to go. And I think once it's printed and mounted, I don't think you're going to notice how it's made. You're just going to hopefully, enjoy the new signs and not have them being old and falling apart.
Well, the other side of that, is if it turns out that somebody wants to change them in the future and go vinyl again, they can go right back over them. They can peel them off, and because the aluminum's not going to rot.
Right.
It won't rust.
No, it won't rust. So I mean, it seems like the best of both worlds.
Yeah, the longevity certainly makes it more appealing.
Yeah, and I think it can just sit. We were thinking about, do we need to put a frame? But I think because of the materials, again, with a wood, especially a plywood like they've used, those signs that are there now didn't use a frame, and so any water that's hitting goes through the laminations eventually, even going through the paint. With this material, it's aluminum and it's this plastic or whatever it is inside, so rain can hit the top of that and not affect it, and then their lamination goes right to the edge. So I don't see any issues, and even if there was, we could do a wooden frame around it to protect it, but I don't think we'll need to. Well, that's all I have for that. I don't know if there needs to be a motion in terms of approving this, or if other people have comments. I know that Auntie mentioned, did we consider a fall palette, a red, orange, and yellow, which I didn't. That's something we can mock up if people are interested. We do have the gateway to the Green Mountains, which is hence the Green Mountains. But I'm into that. And not that I want to have another one, but I like the idea of swapping it out for the seasons, but I don't want to be going down there and unscrewing the sign every season. So.
Something magnetic you could just throw over the top of it.
That's true. That's true. But yeah, that's true. Or something, right? And then Richard Butch commented he was hoping for neon. Sorry to disappoint you,
Richard. What account would we take the money out of, Val? Would that be?
Well, I was just trying to look at that. We have a couple of different miscellaneous sections, like in the general part of the budget. general expenses, there's miscellaneous. $500 was budgeted, but 912 has already been spent out of it.
We didn't budget that very well.
No.
A lot of miscellaneous there.
I mean, there's also, not that I want to take Public Works Department money, but they have a sign budget, but it wasn't having this in mind, it was other signs. And I know we need to do new signs, but that's something where I know where sign money is.
Right.
I mean, I'll make a motion that we have Ian get up final cost with 802.
Okay.
And Valerie, by next meeting, we'll know where we're gonna come with, we'll have a cost and know where we're gonna come with, what line it's gonna come out of. At least to keep it going.
Okay. Yep, I can do that.
That's my motion.
I don't think you need a
I
motion
don't think
to
we
do
need a
that.
motion for that.
Oh, okay.
Hey, just consensus and
Yeah.
we can do that.
Okay, consensus.
Okay. So consensus to get a final cost, and then we'll figure out, I'll work with Anthony and work with Val to figure out where it's going to come out. And then do I present in 2 weeks, or is it just something that we can go ahead and do? I mean, there's no rush for it, but.
I think we're gonna need a motion to do it, and in that motion, we'll have the
Where the money's
pending,
coming.
yeah, where the money's coming from and pending, acceptance by the landowners.
Okay. Oh, that's true. Okay. And you don't have
Which
any.
is something you can find out between now and then.
Oh yes, no, that's great. And I think you're right. I think even though we had that agreement many years ago, I think it's always good to check in and make sure, especially presenting a new design. It's not drastically different, and we're not changing it, in a huge way. But I think it's good to check in as well.
Well, it was a 3-year agreement and we never took them down in 3 years, so I'm guessing.
Yeah. And then we'll find out, and I don't know, Val, Michelle mentioned last time about the new signs with the incorrect spelling coming into town. Is that contact the same contact that we talk about this in terms of the speed sign?
Right, yes.
Okay.
I was gonna ask that question if Val reached out to them or not.
No, not yet.
But I spelled Muncil, M-U-N-C-I-L.
Well, so Val, if you have a contact for that person, I don't mind reaching out to them because I'd like to talk to them about those business signs because they're a completely different font than any other thing they've done. It's also lowercase, which is very odd. It's almost like a random mistake, and then they got put up. I can't imagine how these were approved. So if you have a contact person, email or phone, I'm happy to call them and ask about my sign issue as well as the other sign issue.
That sounds good. I'll get that to you.
Okay, super. All right, I think we're set with this one, and we can move on unless anyone else has any other questions. Guess not. Okay, let me just get the time here. Let's see. 8.
Just a note that Michelle needs to leave around 9 o'clock.
Oh yeah, let's speed this up then.
It's 2 hours late. I got notice.
No, it's not. He already texted me, said we're on our way home. So there.
All right, moving on. Continue discussion of Lincoln Road intersection improvements. This is something that I added to the list or asked Val to. I know we discussed this last year, and we had the scoping study or the study in terms of the safety at that particular area. I know that we didn't really come to any decision. I watched the video from the last time we spoke about it, and it seemed like our final discussion on the matter was moving the stop sign and having that area sort of paved over to the right to be able to have people move to the right to be able to turn. I wanted to bring this up just because it's purely a selfish reason, because I travel that road and it is a difficult place to turn. And I go there, at least 6 times a week in terms of picking up a child going to preschool up there. And so it is something I'm just constantly thinking about. And I'd like to see also, one, for me, because I'm being selfish about that, and it's because I feel it's dangerous. And 2, I think, this was commissioned by the Lincoln Select Board, and I'd like to give them something to show that we're moving on this. And so I just wanted to see where we're at in terms of the ability to move that stop sign and then the repaving of the road. It was something that we had discussed previously.
They're gonna contribute to
So
one.
there was something that Joel brought up, and I've been looking as I drive around, and he was told by somebody that the bridge railing didn't have to be that high. And I don't know why it is that high. If you look at the bridge we did afterwards down here at the bottom of South Street,
Yeah.
it's only 2 rungs high. And I don't know if we could, we'd probably get Randy Sargent to go in there with a sawzall and cut all of them off and take that 1 rung off. But I don't know if that's something we could ask the state about, because then you would be able to see most vehicles. You would be able to see over that rail. And that, I'm not saying to not move the stop sign and move the pavement, but I think a combination of the 3 would make it a lot safer.
I think you're right.
Well, Peter's talking about, I got to know the general engineer from the state of Vermont on the big dig, as they refer to it now, the train, tunnel down there. And we got talking about it. He said, I go by there. And I says, we've had this commission, we've done all this and that. And he goes, I said, why couldn't it just be 2 rails? And he goes, well, I don't see why it couldn't be. So I think that's an avenue. I won't throw him under the bus because I forgot his name already. So I don't know who it is, and I wouldn't throw him
You
under the
got
bus.
to know him really well then.
But he had some engineering stuff we had to clear up. But Michelle, I dealt with a lot of engineers down there. So anyway, I don't know. That was November. You're always giving me crap. But I think that's at least we have a conversation. But here again, we start at the top. If we don't get any, I guess we're going to get the lights finally fixed on the bridge. But we start up and say, why can't we get this at least lower this railing?
Okay, I think it's good. I think you and Pete are right. I think it's a multi-pronged approach to try to get what we want. We can move the stop sign, we can repave because we're going to be doing that anyway. But yes, I think actually changing the bridge, if it's possible, and if it's within their guidelines, I don't see why we shouldn't try to at least talk to them about that and see if we can fix this problem.
So when you say take that top rung, I assume you're talking about.
Yeah.
But you're saying that first section, you don't even need to take the whole row off, even if you just take that first section, right?
By the turn.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm just saying what an engineer said to me from the state of my IoT, said that, you don't need all 3 of those rails.
Well, no, I understand that, but I'm just saying.
Do we know?
You
I
don't
don't
need
know.
to take the whole thing off. I mean,
I think we need to make some phone calls, and I don't mean out to 453 out to the state garage in New Haven. We skip over about 4 of them and we start with our legislators and say, we want some action.
I mean, I wonder if the 3rd one is there just because that's such a high place for people stopping, taking pictures, leaning over, where they.
I thought the same thing. South Street, we widened so that people could walk across it.
Right.
I mean, we actually plan on people walking across that bridge, and that was one of my thoughts too, is it to keep people from going over it, but.
And the question I had, what was that, 6-8 months ago now, a year ago, we had that meeting, was how many of us all come off the river road every day? And that slants down onto 116. Why couldn't that Lincoln Road be raised a couple of feet and come down on that? You raise that and lower that bar, I think you've cured the problem. But I didn't stay at a Holiday Inn last night, and I'm not a residential engineer. So
Is Lincoln going to be contributing to any of this, or is this really on us?
I think it's all on us.
Okay, so given that, so we have sort of ideas of talking to the state about the bridge. In terms of the stop sign, I know that it was, the last time we talked, it was about moving that when Lincoln Road might be paved. And I don't know, Eric, you mentioned, this was last year, and you mentioned it would be this year that you're doing that. I don't know what your plans are at the moment in terms of repaving that road.
After the river is fixed. So hopefully this fall.
The storm damage that we looked at by Circle Current and then up across from those two sections are going to be, the way it was explained to Eric and I when we met up there with the state was that they figured they'd have to cut into the road. So I'm dead set against paving it and then cutting into the road to fix those 2 spots. So, and Eric knows that. That's why he's saying after the river repair is done.
So what's in terms of the timeline of the river repair, is that out of our hands? How is that handled?
I'm trying, in the process of finalizing the scope of work.
Okay.
I've reached out to the engineer we discussed, and he would be available to work on it. I shared with him the the grant application, so he's familiar with what we applied to do and the location of the where the work needs to be done. So we're getting started on it.
Okay, great. All right, super. I don't think my questions have been answered for this particular one. I don't know if the select board has any other questions with regard to this particular project.
But speaking of the lights on the bridge, after we talked that night, I went home. I messaged Val and I said, well, good timing. I said, because there's another one that's going out. I was like, it was flashing on my way home.
Well, it's, at some point, it'll just be so dark, people were going to need those high railings as they smash across the bridge in total darkness. So. Okay.
I did pass that new
And
information.
that was, you know, I talked with one of the higher ups of the state when I was working with them. They had a program where they sent the higher ups out to work with the road crew, and he was all mad at me. He said, "Well, you guys wanted those lights." He said, "We didn't have anything to do with the design of those bridges. Whoever designed them wanted it to look like Main Street, so they put the lights on. So if you know, in the future, if somebody gives us grief about we wanted those lights, we had nothing to do with those lights being on those bridges."
Good to know. All right, moving on. Let's see here. Where are we? Number 6, American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA, funding update and select board goals. Oh, sorry. Sally, did you have a question with regard to the previous issue?
Yes, sorry. I wrote something, but I ended up going just to Ben. So I mentioned that we talked about putting a mirror across from that intersection because we would so much more easily be able to see what was coming. And that seems like a very simple fix and, could be done sooner, you'd think. Whether we did something else or not, I think a mirror would be really helpful.
Okay. Yeah, that was part of that study. So we could revisit that as we find sort of information in terms of at the state level with regard to the railings. Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
All right, moving on. American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA funding update and select board goals.
So this is a standing agenda item. And in my report, I gave an update that the ARPA Funding Advisory Committee met last week. They meet on the first Monday of every month now. Their next task is to form focus groups on 4 specific areas: town departments, town operations, basically, nonprofits, business, and schools. So they're in the process of working out the logistics of that. And at some point, and I'm not really sure what the timing needs to be, but to get solid feedback from the select board about what the select board feels should be included on this list of potential ARPA funding projects, ARPA funded projects. So I'm not sure. I'd be interested in your thoughts because don't want to. On the one hand, we can make a list now. And just kind of add it to the mix of what the group is thinking, or wait to see what they come up with. I don't know. I'm really not sure. I'd be interested in your ideas.
I have a very long list that I've compiled. I know that a couple of meetings ago, or maybe more, I think that the suggestion was thrown out to come up with 6 ideas each of where the money could be spent. And obviously, we've had the list that you've been reminding us about, Val, in terms of much larger projects. But I created a long list, just sort of thinking of everything I could, and then throwing it into the various categories that you on your matrix that you created. That was the breakdown that I did in terms of taking the areas and then trying to fit in these projects. So I have that, but it's long. I mean, I can mention a few of those things now, but I don't know. I'd be interested too to sort of hear from other board members if there are things that if they had created a list as well, or if there were certain projects that we wanted to sort of propose. Because a lot of these are sort of small stuff. It's like an EV charging station, fixing up the skate park, and I could present those just as a member of the public and submit those to Val as a part of not having it be through the select board. But I don't know if there are particular ones that the board wants to focus on and talk about and put forth.
Well, I can tell you, I've struggled with this. I've thought about it and I've thought about it, and it's like okay, what is the, what projects can I think of that would benefit the majority of the people? And I really can't think of a specific project. So my thought then got to, well, maybe I could think of something that benefits the village and then something that might benefit, people outside of town. And I'm still struggling, so I'm still thinking.
So I just have a question for clarity. How do schools fall into this if it's a unified district and we decide to put X amount of money into schools and other communities don't?
Well, don't they have their own
They have
funds?
their own
They get their own
funds.
funds.
Yeah, so
They're getting
I mean,
all
I'm
the
just
money.
curious as to why schools are on there. And that's,
I think it's up to, like, if we chose to do something, we could, but that's why, like, the facades have all been updated in the last 2 years. I mean, that was ARPA money, or COVID money, or whatever we call it, but.
That was their surplus money they had to spend or they were gonna lose it.
Yeah.
That's why it got done.
so I mean, I'm curious as to why they're on the list.
Right, I don't have a good answer for that.
I do know that schools K through 12 did receive their own section of ARPA funding. There was like $123 billion throughout the country that they allocated to the K through 12. So I don't know if what additional money towns are giving, if any. I haven't really looked into the school districts and how they have decided to go about using their funds. I actually don't know how much money the school district received. But I do know from my discussions at my conference, no one really brought up school districts in that kind of way.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what I've seen, what the few towns that I've seen where they've decided they have to give the money to schools.
Well, I could see if Lincoln pulls out of the district, I could see Lincoln taking money for their schools. That I could understand. If Bristol Elementary was still Bristol School, I could see us taking money for that school, but I don't see us being a unified district. I don't see
Any benefit to the
any
town.
benefit to the town. I mean, yes, there's a benefit. I shouldn't say there's not a benefit to the town, but it's not
just for Bristol.
It's not just for Bristol. And I think that that's the way I would like to see the money used, so that it benefits the residents of Bristol.
I think
All
that,
good points.
go on, Bill.
No, that I was just saying that those are very good points.
I mean, I think, yeah, if there's money also, ARPA money related to the schools, they obviously will have access to that. I think it's put in there because it's sort of, it's organizations, whether it's a school or whether it's a nonprofit or whether it's the municipality, that need help and that could benefit from this. And so I think it's just with at least my understanding of what the committee is doing is just throwing a wide as net as possible to get ideas. And, some of those ideas, maybe some come in from the schools and the schools have their own way of thinking and their own way of sort of looking at the money that they're getting. But I think it's just at the moment to be as inclusive as possible to try to get as long a list as possible. And then obviously it would be sort of narrowed down. But I do think, I think, Pika, it's yes, you want to benefit as many people in Bristol as possible, but it's going to be, the way that the money distributed, it's going to be difficult to do that with everyone. If one decision is to give support money for Turning Point, that might only affect a very small portion of the population of Bristol, whereas another project could benefit people in the village. Another project could benefit people out of town. I think it's going to be hard to try to benefit as many people as possible, and I think that's why a lot of it is just sort of getting as many ideas as we can to then be able to divvy it out and have potentially hundreds of projects that this money funds.
Well, I just looking at it the way you looked at the Lincoln Road, I'm being selfish. And if
Right.
we're going to spend the money, I want to spend it primarily on Bristol. The money was given to Bristol to be spent in Bristol, not to be spent in a district that's bigger than Bristol.
Right, the same way Lincoln's getting money to
Yeah.
spend in Lincoln. They're not gonna spend it in Bristol.
Sure. But I mean, think of,
That's my thinking.
That's true. And with the school side, I mean, you could look at, because we have infrastructure here for our schools, both middle school and high school, as well as elementary school, you know, you could look at specific projects maybe that would benefit those buildings, perhaps in terms of energy upgrades or any number of different things. And I guess it would be, maybe it would be, you would look at projects that would might, even though it's in the district, but it's helping a Moncton school, and if depending on the funds that they received, you know, that's how you could sort of differentiate how you divided that money, perhaps.
Being selfish.
No, it's fine. I mean, I think we need to look at it, you know, in all different ways.
You know, I've thought this a long, long time, and I had from, you know, triple our sidewalk in 1 year and do all those, because a lot of people walk on them, whether they're town or, you know, the police district. We don't have a village anymore. We'll call it a police district residents or town residents. They come in and walk. I've thought about tripling their guardrail fund so we can make these roads safer. And then I got thinking, it was really helpful for me to watch the first initial meeting, and I watched it 3 times. I've listened to it 3 times.
The ARPA, the initial ARPA meeting. Mhm.
You know, and I heard things, key buzzwords like longevity of a project, infrastructure, things of that nature. Will it be here when or is it a flash in a pan? And then where did that money go in 5 years? Could you really look and grab a hold of something and say, we did that with ARPA money and it's still going on? And I've got one project that I think benefits a lot of people. Almost, if you think about it, can almost help everyone in town. And it's something that we've been wanting in this town for a long, long time. And I don't know, Darla sat in that seat on the corner upstairs for a long time. Jerry Utes did, and now Meredith. And we are a rec department without a site. She's got an office, it's 12 by 12. And I would like to see us seriously, this ARPA money for one project, and that's a rec center. Rec club would be willing to give the land for it, because I've already briefly asked around about that with them, and the schools would help out with that, but it could help from pre-K. You could have lessons over there with pre-K for seniors to have their, when the Legion isn't available, to have their feet worked on, or they play pickleball and everything in between. I don't want a basketball court. No, I know my family plays basketball constantly. I want baskets in it, but I want a rubberized floor that we can do. I wanted this back in 1990 when we built, I refer to it as the White Elephant, this IE skating rink that we only use about 4 weeks out of the year because we don't have a plan
at one time.
There was a plan to put a building over that, but I would like to see them really consider a rec center. So in 100 years, when we're all gone, and my great grandchildren, if I ever have any, are here, said they built that with ARPA funds and it's still available. Tell me some of these things that I know it's coming off the pipeline. They can say, you know, in 25 years, where did that go? Where did that ARPA money go? It's come and gone, it's flash in the pan. And I don't think a rec center would be a flash in the pan.
That was on my list.
It's on my list too. I mean, I called it something different, but that's.
I just said rec department / rec center.
Community center.
Yeah.
I think that,
I would call it
that's
a
a
Community center, thank you.
That's what I said. Yeah, I know. I
Not so much rec, you're right,
You're right.
Valerie, thank you for
I wrote it
community
first,
center.
yeah.
It can be used for multiple things.
That's what I
run,
called
run by
And
the.
multi-generational.
Multiple generational.
Run by the rec department.
Right, and I actually tied it more closely to the teen center, which is gonna need a new home. I mean, that they're not gonna do anything to that building. They told us that already.
Right.
And they're outgrowing that space
Yeah.
and it's falling down around them. So
And you know, the other side of that is that there's infrastructure already there. The septic's already there to accommodate.
right.
It is. And I had a conversation with very high up at the Union District, probably the highest up. Yeah, I take him as the highest up, Mr. Reed. And he said, we'd love to sit at the table with you and discuss
Of
things.
course they would.
Oh, yeah, we benefit them too, just like the field benefits. them.
Yeah, just like the
Yeah.
field benefits. So
Yeah.
Well,
That's-
the other
that's-
thing to think about is our police department and our public works building.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, those are 2 huge projects.
But I had them on my list and I was told that, I think maybe, Valerie, I don't mean to throw you on the table. I think you told us early on that it can't be used for public works buildings, but maybe they've changed.
No, it can't.
Keep saying it
I
keeps
wouldn't have
changing
said
now.
that. No.
No,
Well,
it can.
maybe it can be.
I
It's
mean,
sort of, yeah, it's under public health. There's like capital investments or physical plant changes to public facilities that respond to the COVID-19 public health emergency. So it's a very broad category.
well, it's also governmental services. So
Right.
it classifies under that as well, because
Right.
providing a building for the DPW, for example, is providing a governmental service to the town. So we can house all of the equipment, for example, in the same way that a rec center or community center would be a governmental service, because it'd be overseen by the rec department, and we'd be providing services to the town.
Right.
Now, just to go off of that a little bit, we would need to really think it through, because one of the things we need to say what we're going to use the money on in the next 2 years, we need to spend it by 2026. Now, one of the things about it is we don't have to worry that we have more than $10 million. So we don't really need to worry about that. We just need to figure out how we can pay for that, how long it's going to take, because we need to have the money spent by 2026. Not necessarily the project needs to be done by then, but we need to use it by then.
Mhm.
So we just would really need to think about
The schedule.
that kind of mindset. Because ARPA and the Treasury doesn't really want something that's going to take years, which is why they're so stringent on that $10 million revenue line. Because anything that's more than $10 million on a project is going to take multiple years, to the point where what are you going to do with, how are you going to spend all that money by then? So that's just something to think about.
Val and Anthony, isn't that where we can say we're gonna use it all for revenue?
Well, we
Revenue
could.
replacement, and then we can decide what to do with it?
Well, yes, technically, but at the same point in time, we need to come up with a plan. Just because we declare revenue replacement, we still need to prepare for the single audit that's going to happen. We also need to still report everything, because we're going to have an audit, and we're just going to come into like $1.3 million that we're going to use in the next 2 years. That's still considered a federal grant under audit conditions. So we need to keep that in perspective. So essentially, the revenue loss clause for governmental services pretty much creates its own way of reporting. It's a more simplified version, but reporting still required. It's not, you lose the justification piece, but you still have the reporting piece. So just keeping that in mind is important.
Okay. Sally, you had a question?
Yes, on this subject, the library is being looked at in detail, and we're finding out, from contractors what various things could cost. So that whole process is coming along, and we're going to be meeting with the library board on the 19th. So that's another place, if there's money to be used for that, that'd be great too, to help button up that library so it's cozy and lasts a long time, and uses less electricity. I mean, well, both electricity and fuel. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thanks, Sally. Yeah, let me, my thinking was a little bit different. My thinking was sort of smaller projects. Let me see if I can share this. Is it that one? What's that? Okay, there we go.
Looks like it.
So this was sort of what I did was similar to what, as I mentioned before, what Val did was break it down into the different areas to try to fit these projects into where they can be useful and what they can come out of. So capital investments, physical plant changes. Again, I've got the library in there in terms of the HVAC and energy renovation. Howden Hall, if we need to upgrade that. And these are all smaller things. It's a lot of money when you look at something like a community center. The one that was proposed, the Deerley Community Building, which I knew a little bit about when I first moved here. That was a multi-million-dollar project. And anything like this, I think, with what the scope of what we're looking at, is more than our 1.1 million. And so my thinking was, what can we do? Yes, that would benefit a lot of people in town, a lot of people out of town. But are there other things that can all add up to something that will benefit a great number of people just in different ways? So that was my kind of thinking. So, I've got sort of technology in terms of better remote meeting setups because we're still continuing to do that. HVAC upgrades, the communications tower scoping study at the fire station. That's something that we're looking at down the line. Can we use a little bit of this money to just see what the potential is for that? The rec department, very, specifics in there. Skate park renovation. I know they've wanted to do that for a number of years because it's sort of falling apart over there in terms of, and needs to be replaced a lot. You've got the playground repair that's coming up. We got Memorial Park, the reconstruction of that. Eagle Park, fixing of that platform. The town rec department, again, is looking at the bus. Is that something that could be purchased with this money? And then one thing I've noticed is drainage on the town green. With the amount of snow that sits there, it's pools a lot all over the town green. Is something can be fixed with that. There's a big area, big push for communications and for technology improvements. I'd love to see that in the town offices in terms of IT development, which would be, the networking there, the intranet, better communications, our better email, a safer system, a more secure system. I'd really love to have the town website redesigned for better use, better presenting of information to the residents of the town. And there's a whole host of things connected to that. And then I sort of jumped into negative economic impact. So nonprofits, again, the Lawrence Library, they wanted to do little free library book boxes, put more of those around town. EV charging stations, we're one of the few towns that doesn't have a charging station. We've been trying to get one, but again, it's that cost. It's, even though it's not a tremendous amount when you're looking at this 1.1 million, it's still something that we haven't budgeted for, and it does cost a bit. So can we get an EV charging station here? Pop-up parklet, Bristol Cores wanted to do that for a while. Splash pad, something fun at the rec club. Local sports teams donations to support our local teams. Talk to Reg at the Historical Society. He happened to mention in terms of presentations they have, be nice to have a screen there. So when people come in, just like we have in the town offices, can they have something like that there to be able to do their presentations and be able to do the history of Bristol? And then broadband is obviously something that we've spoken about. I do think we should support Maple Broadband. And then obviously we've got revenue replacement in there as well, which we sort of haven't dived into a lot. But that was sort of what I went through, a whole host of projects, smaller amounts of money, but that could hit a lot of different places in town. So, and for a lot of these, I'll probably just submit them as a resident of the town and just have those added to the big list. But that was my way of thinking. As much as I want to do the big projects, it's hard to do that. 1.1 doesn't go far when you're dealing with, doing an entire building. So that was my way of thinking. I don't know, Val, if you want to, do we want to make a decision on how we want to do this? Do we want to just, I know that, and obviously, we haven't talked about the projects that you've had on your list as well, which is the select board's list in terms of the other projects. I mean, I don't know, given that we all have these different ideas, I mean, should we just submit and put into the matrix everything that you've mentioned, what's been mentioned this evening as well, and just put it in and have no official sort of like, this is what the select board would like to do, just in terms of these are ideas. How do you think it's best to handle that?
Well, good question. I've been wondering that. And also, as one of the focus groups, members of the committee are going to be meeting with different departments to get a handle on what the departments are thinking, and that might inform some of the things that the select board would add to the list. So right. I'm just, in terms of timing, I mean, I'd love to continue this conversation, but I wonder if we should wait until after we get the feedback from the municipal focus group.
I mean, we could do that. I think you have a list that you've presented. I think we might as well submit that. I think a big part of that, what the committee might look at, is the dollar amount. And so, if you're presenting projects that are $700,000, like you said at the last ARPA meeting, that the suggestions we've had so far, which has just been from a small group of people, maybe 8 or 9 or maybe less submissions, already totaled like $750,000. So a big chunk of that just from 6 people. If you throw the select board's projects in terms of infrastructure, It obviously puts it way over that amount. But I feel that we just put everything in and let the board sort of look at that and look at that matrix and see it grow, get the feedback from different focus groups, and then have them start to look at it and look at each one individually and start to rate it and see what they can do with it. Board, what are your thoughts?
Ultimately, it comes back to us, correct?
Yep.
So it makes sense to have the ideas that we're talking about thrown into the mix that they're looking at, and we can take it from there once they make their recommendations.
Yeah, I mean, just because everybody puts in their request, I mean, we can support them. We may not support them with the amount they want,
Right.
so.
It's like writing a grant. You
Right.
ask for the moon, but you
Right.
might,
Yeah, and I'm hoping, I mean, given that we have such a good group of people, I think on that committee, I think they're going to do some very good vetting. Obviously, we're going to get community feedback as well from some of the ideas put forth. But my hope is that when projects are presented to us, whether they're big or small, I think they've been fully vetted, and hopefully they're all ones that we're going to be invested in, and not say, well, no, it wasn't one of the ones that we picked, so we're not going to approve that. I see that like these are going to be ones that they're going to help shape and what the community really wants.
One of the values of this list that's ultimately going to come out of the whole process is seeing the broad list of what the community's aspirations, and whether the ARPA money can be used for all of them or some of them. There are other funding sources that could still help make things happen, aside from the ARPA funding. So even if something doesn't fall under the ARPA umbrella, it could still happen another way. But it's good to have that on the list so that we know about it.
Okay.
Do we want community center put on the select board's list that Valerie submitted?
I think so. Absolutely.
I
why
believe
not?
so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think.
Is it already on there, Val, or?
We have some cost estimates from that early design concept.
No, I mean, I just was wondering if community center was on our list.
I think it should be. Again,
Well,
for that very reason.
That's what we're saying. We want it on that list that you submit to them.
Right. Yeah.
But I think we should also put on the DPW/police department,
Right.
building as well.
Agree.
Yeah, because even as Val said, even if this money doesn't go towards that, at least we have this sort of master list that we can pull from. I mean, we know internally what we're sort of working on, but it's just it's going to be interesting to us to see all those different projects out there, and hopefully projects that aren't funded with this can get funding in other ways, and those projects can go forward.
For example, I have strong confidence that if we apply to the Northern Border Regional Commission again for any one of the projects that are on our list, that we have a high chance of success of getting it.
What would that cover? What kind of projects?
Up to $500,000. Yeah. Currently, maybe at the time we're ready to apply, it might be different, but I think that could be a good possible funding source.
So with something like the police station, we obviously talked about the potential to have that move to maybe where a public works building would be, or perhaps over to the fire station. Would that kind of grant money, if the police station, let's say, stays where it is and that space was renovated and we bought that space, let's say that's a cheaper option, does a grant money like that cover something like that, or would it have to be a new project that you're building from the ground?
It doesn't have to be a new project.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess
it has to be a compelling application. Right.
That's true. Can we make it a compelling application? Okay.
Well, that's something to think about.
Okay. Yeah. So I think we've got the community center. I think we're all in support of. I think that's a great idea. And obviously there have been numerous discussions on this, and they sort of not stalled, but we sort of stopped them for a little bit, and then COVID happened. But it's nice to get that sort of people talking about that again. And then I think the list that you had previously, Val, I think we were all in agreement with that. And again, you know,
Valerie-
go on. Sorry, Michelle.
That's okay. No, it's me this
Oh,
time.
oh, sorry.
I'm just curious about the grant that you just mentioned. Is that a federal grant? The Northern Borders?
It's a combination, I believe.
Because I know Senator Leahy and Senator Sanders' office both have deep pockets and have funded some pretty big projects around the state in the last few years.
Right. The more a project is shovel ready, the higher chance of success.
Okay. Any further discussion on this, or should we move on?
Move on.
Let's move.
Okay. Let's see. We're at number 7. FY 2022 third quarter budget review.
I don't know, Anthony, if that was you or Val that created that form, but that was helpful.
That was really
good.
helpful.
Yeah, it was helpful for me too, actually, to see those numbers with fresh eyes. Just quickly, I can share my screen, I think. Let's see if it works. Can you see that?
Yep.
And now, yep.
Okay, so this is the third quarter budget review. We're 75% of the way through our budget. And this helps us see where we are in terms of the specific areas of our budget. And obviously we'd want them to be close to 75%. Some are not, and some are under. Overall, we really, in some cases, it doesn't matter what about the individual line items, as long as the bottom line is where we expected to end up. Right now, the total general fund is higher than 75% of expenses. But when you calculate, so what 75% of what we budgeted for, turns out that that amounts to just under $60,000 currently over budget for the general fund at 75%. But at the same time, if you go up to revenues and do the same thing, we've gotten more revenues than we expected, and we still have more to come. And right now we're over $93,000 more in revenues than we expected. So one could argue that higher revenue more than offsets this figure down here. And when we look at the police and water and sewer departments, they're all in the 75% or under range for their budgets.
But Valerie, on our general fund, there could be some things that Anthony's paid, like already the insurance is paid up. You know,
some of the bond payments.
Some bond payments that,
right,
you know,
right.
They're paid up. So, you know, you made them up the first part of the first quarter, then the third quarter.
Right, right.
Okay.
Any questions?
Oh, no.
So this helps us monitor the budget going forward, to try to make sure that make decisions so that we end up as close to where we expect it to be by the end of the year, by the end of the fiscal year.
Yeah, actually, I can just go add slightly more to that. At the end of the month, every time we reconcile our accounts, I go through the entire budget and go through it line by line to see where we stand on percentages and who's over, who's under, and why. If it's something like blatantly like, oh, what's the deal with this? And then just make a note of it for the month after and that kind of thing when we're analyzing where we're at.
Mm-hmm.
So I go slightly more in detail, I think, according to Peter.
Yeah. One thing we discovered, it doesn't show up specifically in this budget, but under public safety, we did not fund the dog pound. We put $0 there, not remembering that that's the line item where we pay Homeward Bound out of $600. So we'll need to remember to put that back in.
We're going to be over 600% on that one.
There you go. Yep.
Yeah, this is great. And hopefully, once we narrow down, if we decide to go with the budgeting software, that kind of aspect of looking at the budget and being able to see the quarterly results would be all automatic. It wouldn't be a spreadsheet. It would be as part of the software that would hopefully help us every single month in terms of knowing exactly where all of our money is and how it's coming in and how it's going out.
As we can see that the Public Works Department is a little bit over, but that's as long as it comes out in the wash at the end of the day at the bottom. That's what we care about.
Yeah.
All right. Shall we move on?
Probably any money left to buy anymore? No.
According to that, no.
You're over.
Okay, moving on. Item 9, appointment and reappointment of town officers may include deliberation in executive session. I noticed on your list, Val, you had my name is in Maple Bodbrand. That should be Dan Sonneborn's name. And also you can add Mark Gibson to that.
Right. Oh. Dan Sonneborn. Okay.
Yeah, he's our main person there. And he's doing a
I
great
had
job.
trouble tracking that down, and for some reason I thought you had stepped into that. But good. Thank you for that.
Sure. Any others heard back or any changes on that particular
No, I
document?
think other than the known vacancies, which we've advertised for, I think all of the other ones with Dan Sonneborn. Well, actually, do you know if Dan Sonneborn is interested in being reappointed
For
the broadband?
yes, yeah, we talked about that the last meeting. I said he was.
Okay, that's all right. And then Mark Gibson.
Yeah, Mark I hadn't heard from, and then I did, and I emailed you about that. So
Yeah.
they're both on board, and we can finalize that document, and I can sign it tomorrow if you prep that.
Okay, and the next one was Tom Wells. He said yes. So
Oh, good.
yeah. So if the select board can make those appointments tonight, that would be great.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor raise your hand, say aye. All against, nay. Motion carries. And that would be for Tom Wells and for Dan Sonneborn and Mark Gibson
Correct.
for their respective committees. I know that it's only been a few days. Any interest from the public on open positions?
Not yet.
Okay.
I think now's an appropriate time to acknowledge the resignation of Carol Kloss from the DRB.
That's what I was going
Yep.
to say. I was going to make a motion
Very
to
sad to
accept
hear
her
that.
resignation with regret. And I'd like to talk, Val, at some point with you about her letter.
Mhm.
Yeah, as would I. So if you're if you want to set that up at some point, I'd like to. I have some questions and just concerns about that.
Mhm.
All right, moving on.
Michelle made a motion to accept the letter or the resignation.
Okay.
Someone second?
Second.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
All those against, nay. Motion carried. Very sorry to see her leave that position. Okay, moving on. Review and approval of minutes. Val, what do we got?
The January 27th.
Okay.
Came out this afternoon.
Except mine changed.
You sent your changes, right, Michelle?
Yes, I did.
Okay. I have some questions about this. Do we want to revisit how these are being done and look at any potential change to this? Looking on the town website, we have no minutes for the past 7 meetings for select board, which I think we're not allowed to do that. We don't even have draft minutes up there. This is something that we obviously changed last year, but looking at this, it doesn't seem like it's working. And I'm not it's not a negative comment on the people involved. It's just doing minutes is a hard thing and it takes time. And depending on how much detail you put into it, either way, whether you're just doing brief minutes or whether you're doing detailed minutes, it's still a heck of a lot of work to do that. And it's also, totally understand it's hard to get people to do it, but I would like to see this not have us get behind continually. And I want to relieve some people who are putting the work into doing this, who also have other jobs that they're doing, and it's not the sole thing that they're focusing on. So I'm wondering if we want to talk about that and how we might want to help and improve this if we can.
I thought the draft minutes were up on the website now.
When they're available.
Well, I thought we had 5 days to get them up there.
Dude, by law.
We're behind on several meetings. I can say, though, that on the list that's on the agenda, we did approve the January 3rd minutes back in February, so we can scratch that one off.
Okay. I mean, what are people's thoughts? I know it's a hard thing to get people to do. We have minute taker for the development review board, and I know that we've spoken with her or reached out, and I know that she didn't want to take on more. Do we have any other options out there? It just seems like given how far we are behind, it doesn't seem like it's working this way. And Sharon, I'm not faulting you. I know you've got a ton of other things to do, and adding this to you were very kind enough to add this to your list of things to do. But I feel like we would be doing you a favor if we could get this off your list so you can focus on what you were normally supposed to be doing.
Well, part of the problem is I'm still doing a lot of the treasurer stuff. So that's taken a lot of time away.
Okay.
So that's part of the problem. I do have a lot of drafts. They're not great drafts, and I'm trying to work on them. I just run out of time.
Right.
And unfortunately, the minutes have suffered.
Sure. Is it something that you would want us to sort of look at in terms of another option? So we could, if we found someone to take on that position, you'd be okay with relinquishing that? Is it something that you'd like to continue doing? Like I don't want to take something away that you want to do, and you will get more time to do that. It's just, I'm wondering how do we help you with this, or how do we help the situation?
I'm not sure. I know I need to catch up, and I've been trying to do that. I do like doing them, or at least attending the meetings, because it helps a lot in the office, because I know more about what's going on.
Right.
Doesn't mean I still couldn't attend them even if I wasn't doing the minutes, but yeah, they are a lot of work. They take a lot of time. I'm up to January 10th. Valerie did the 27th. And like I said, I have very rough drafts. It's hard to do them when you're listening to the meeting with everybody talking over each other. So I don't know. I mean, I know
Are things going to be better for you, or is the treasurer stuff starting to fall back on Anthony so that you have more time?
Well, not at this time. He still has a lot of stuff to learn from Peter, which is really important. And so I'm doing water, sewer, taxes, making sure reports are filed for those entities. And it's, doing a lot. It's just time consuming because I'm the front face of the office. So.
So Valerie, or excuse me, Sharon, you said you were up to January 10th?
Yes, I did January 3rd. I did January 10th, which are on the website. I put them up on the website.
So August 23rd, 13th, and December 13th.
Those are December. Well, the first two are not mine. I wasn't taking minutes then. December 13th, I believe, is on the website. I thought it had already been approved, but it keeps showing up here and I haven't had time to check and see.
Yeah, that could be another ghost that shows up on the minutes list. The August 23rd and September 13th, there are drafts up on the website. They've required a lot of work for review that I haven't had time to complete.
Okay.
One suggestion that I would have is to approach the minutes more in a summary fashion, rather than try to capture as more the level of detail of the discussions. So I know it's hard to pick and choose what gets lost in the summary, but that might help.
Which I've been trying to do with more often than not, but
yeah.
Right. It depends on your note-taking style, and I mean everyone's different. You know, the DRB minutes are very different to the Conservation Commission minutes, and it's all a personal preference on how you write those. So it's hard if you do it a particular way to then switch and have to do it in a more succinct fashion. I think could be difficult. Joel.
That was me. If you summarize, at least then we'd know where to go back and watch the film if we had a question, because it's all available. I mean, it's not like it was before our meetings were filmed. If you missed something, if it wasn't in the minutes, there was no way to go and get it back. At least now, if it's summarized and it's there, we can go back and watch and get all the details if we need to.
Very true.
Right. And also too, I mean, Mary, she does a good job in terms of time stamping them in terms of agenda items. You know, before I was a chair, I put the times in and sent it to her just to help her, because I could do that. I'm still doing that now, which is why I pause in between. And that really helps her, and that helps us too, because then if someone wants to jump to a particular piece like us or the public, they can, which is nice. And that translates both to the neat VOD as well as YouTube, which is nice. I guess given the complexity of minutes and given how far we've fallen behind, just because of any number of reasons, my suggestion would be to sort of reach out to see if we can find someone to take over doing this. And I know that's a hard ask. I know we looked before. Sharon was kind enough to sort of offer to take this on, but I feel it seems like to me it benefits all of us to be able to have Sharon sort of take this off her plate and get back to what her normal duties, of which there are many. So my suggestion would be to try to reach out, and maybe it's just asking other communities how they do it, just to get an idea. Maybe we can find someone who has the time to be able to join us in a meeting and be able to take notes, or watch the video and take notes and deliver minutes. And Sharon obviously is welcome to attend the meetings, and maybe not even having the pressure of having to do the minutes as well, maybe might make the meetings even more enjoyable. So that would be my suggestion. I don't know if the board, how they feel about that.
Good luck.
Yeah, I mean, I just
Yeah.
think you can put it out there, but
You can, yeah.
let's see where it
I mean,
goes.
out there, but
I mean, I don't want to give up on Sharon. Sorry, Sharon, but I think she does a great job, but I'd like to see maybe by late summer, by the 1st of August, if we could, there's 11 here now. If we could say, let's narrow that. Let's try to get, instead of approving 2 months or 2 meetings next week or in 2 weeks, let's do 3. Let's do an extra one every meeting so we can narrow this list down. If we only have 3 by August 1st, maybe we're heading in the right direction, because she does a great job. It's just there's a lot to look over and read and watch again. So we can
Well,
say,
hopefully after this Friday, we'll be able to do a little more, but I'm also facing the fact that I don't have Nicole this summer. So I'm working on somebody to help with being assistant clerk too. So that's another time consuming.
Yeah.
I don't have help, so.
Okay, not having Nicole, is that a budget decision on us, or she
No,
doesn't want to work?
she's having hip surgery, so she'll be out most of the summer.
Oh, okay.
So then I'm back down to just Gail. So we're looking into, apparently the assistant town clerk in Moncton, Chris is gonna check and see if she'd be interested. She's been doing town clerk stuff for a couple of years. See if she'd be interested in doing some of it part-time here, just so I have help over the summer. Because I also have another election coming up in August, so.
Okay.
wow.
Val, what are your thoughts on my suggestion?
Is she here for summer?
Yeah, but she wouldn't do it.
I'm interested to know if Sharon is willing or interested in being relieved at this point.
I want to do what the ones that we have done. And I know I've fallen down in this area, but I don't know, I kind of like doing them. But I have to be realistic too, if we had somebody who could help.
So
Maybe go
Sharon,
that
what would
way?
help? When you say you gotta go through them, does that mean you have to watch the
I watch it
meeting?
again because for me, it's too hard I can take really draft, just like bullet points while I'm doing the meeting. Because there's so much talking going on. Sometimes and you can't like back up and say, wait a minute, what did I miss? Or because you're typing something at the same time, somebody else is already talking. So
what
I go and listen to it, and I've been trying to do more summary on the last couple ones that I did, because you can go back to the minutes and listen to the video and listen to it, but I just run out of time. And minutes are hard to do if you're tired.
Would you be willing, I could take a meeting and I can watch the video and make corrections to your draft minutes. I see how I do, see how it goes. And then, if it goes okay, then maybe I could take another one. I mean, it's not like I can't take a night and do one of them.
To help get them caught up.
Right, to help get them caught up.
Yeah, help get them caught up. Yeah, this has been weighing on me.
I know the feeling.
I mean, I'm willing to do that. Well, I'll at least take one and grab your draft minutes and I'll watch it and review it and make, whatever changes I want to make. And then if that works okay, then maybe I can take out another one.
Yeah, we can do that.
I also think going forward, the idea of summary notes I'm fine with that. Especially like Ian said with the timestamp. I think that makes really good sense.
Yeah, it might be something where Sharon's draft, which for her is rough because of the amount of detail that she provides in the full one. If Michelle looks at that and feels like this captures the essence of the meeting, it gets the main points across, like maybe that moves that kind of, with some corrections, moves into what our final minutes would be. And then we always link to the video. It's on the website. It's on Neat. We're one of few towns, I think, that actually has all that record because we have Neat.
Right.
So we don't have to have the detail. I mean, it's obviously lovely to have the detail, and I know that a lot of people won't watch the video, but will read the minutes. So it's great to have. But having the combination of the two, it seems like we can do, summary kind of minutes and have the video if people want the full discussion and have every word that I've said, they can watch that again and listen.
Okay.
And I've been at most of these meetings, so, it's not like I won't remember.
Right.
So,
Right. That's all these meetings are. It's just us remembering stuff.
I'll coordinate with you, Sharon.
Okay, sounds good, Michelle.
Okay, I think that's a great way forward. Thank you, Michelle.
I have to admit that sometimes going back to catch up on the minutes, for example, the August ones, I'm sure I'll find interesting elements of the conversations that I had not remembered today. And that it's a good way to be reminded sometimes of certain things that were discussed or expectations. So anyway, just a thought.
So, Ian, did we vote yet on accepting the January 27th?
I sent my comments and I don't know if anybody else reviewed them.
I didn't have a chance.
I didn't have a chance. Are we okay accepting them with Michelle's changes?
There wasn't a lot.
Okay.
I think so.
Okay, I'll make a motion to accept the January 27th with Michelle's changes.
Second.
Thank you. Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing, seeing none. All those in favor say aye or raise your hand. All those against, nay. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Okay, moving on. 10, authorize accounts payable warrant and any liquor licenses. I know Sharon at the top mentioned we might want to discuss one of the applications and
We didn't see that one in there.
No, I've got it right here on my desk.
Okay, I was gonna say, Peter and I both looked at each other and said, I didn't sign that one.
So Sharon, remind us what the stipulations are of that particular one. And this is for South Mountain.
Last year, you voted they cannot serve alcohol on the porch outside after 10 p.m. The establishment must close by midnight with customers out. Exception would be New Year's Eve, where they can stay open until 1 a.m. And the overhead door must be closed by 10 p.m. if there's music.
Okay, and we worked with those with Bruce. I think that was the agreement that Hatch had, and this continued over with South Mountain. I don't have any issues with that. I don't know if Bruce has any comments or concerns with that. I don't know if he can chime in. I think he's still here.
He's still.
I'm good with it.
Okay, Bruce is good with that. Select board, how are you with that?
I'm good with it.
Works for me.
Works for me.
Okay, good. So we don't need a motion for that, or do we, Val? We just approval through Sharon? And us signing?
If we sign it with those conditions, it is what it is.
Right.
If
Okay.
they're
Yeah,
on
I'll list it on the application and then, your signatures will be on there, so.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. Moving on. Select board roundtable. Peeker.
Good.
Joel.
Eric Carter asked me, and I discussed it with Eric, and I told Eric Carter. Eric Carter asked me about the highway guys have been dumping large or crushed stone into a wet spot just before his place or somewhere up through there, Buffalo Rose's camp.
In a bog?
In a bog, and he was wondering why we don't get serious with that section and dig it all out and maybe put some fabric down and really do a good job. And I said, well, it boils down to probably two things. It's a spring under there and it's a huge cost. So, but I said, we'd probably take a look at it in our road trip. And Eric's, we talked about it briefly tonight and the other morning. So he's going to show it to us on our road trip.
We have one of those up my way. You put dirt
called
in it,
mud
it's
season.
out of sight.
It's all mud season. So that's all I had.
That's right.
Okay, thanks, Joel.
Eric Carter again.
You ain't seen anything compared to, I would go over to Washington. Oh my God, I would, if I were Eric and I had those roads, I wouldn't even come to work.
Is that the one they show on the TV?
Yes, actually, one of them was one they showed on TV.
I was watching one of them, I said, oh, I know exactly.
Talk
what
about
is.
that, and I agree with you, Peter. Our roads are fantastic compared to, there was an article in the Rutland Herald last week. A lady was out on the side of the road, and I want to say somewhere up there, Waterbury, up in that area somewhere, Washington. For like 6 hours, she tried to, lost her keys, got out of her car, then lost her keys, and she fell down. Her face was, and she was in intensive care for like days at the hospital.
Oh my goodness.
Barely made it, and she's with
Because of,
UBR
because of the mud.
because of the mud, and she was breathing in mud, and a
Yeah.
tow truck never showed up, and from AAA, they thought it was coming, her husband thought it was coming, then her cell phone went dead. It was quite, go on the Rutland Herald site and read it. It was quite I felt really sorry for the woman.
Yeah.
Okay.
Darla.
I don't have anything this evening.
Michelle.
I'm good, and I'm gonna have police.
Okay. I just have one for Eric, who I think is still there. I can't tell.
No, he left hours ago. He didn't want to talk about sidewalks. He's gone.
Nice try.
Yeah, he's here. He's here.
Eric, getting up on the Lincoln Road, just after the parking area, there's a large tree that's about maybe, 20 feet tall, a dead tree. I don't know. Do you have plans to take that down? My worry is that it falling just right across the road, Lincoln Road.
Not now. Probably wouldn't be in the last.
Okay, I wasn't sure if you were aware of that one. I just see it driving up there, and I think about like it falling across the road, and I don't know if you want to take a look at that and just see. Maybe it's absolutely fine. It is dead, and it doesn't have the top of the tree. It's just maybe 20 feet of it, but I didn't know if it was of concern to you.
Not right now. I mean, I keep an eye on it, so.
Okay.
But yeah, I know the one you're talking about.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. All right, all set. Town Administrator's report.
I have nothing to add to my written report, but I do want to draw attention to the other business items, which include the status report of the revolving loan fund, notice of award. Oh, yes, notice of award of our VTrans Transportation Alternatives Program grant of $300,000 for the Basin Street project. So that was big news.
Fantastic.
Yes, the Addison County, the almost home or homeward bound Humane Society contract was administratively approved. an email that I forget his first name, that Saunders is leaving Leahy's office and he's moving on to the Northern Border Regional Commission. So that's probably a good thing for us. A press release about the V-Trans bike and ped grant program, and then the Addison County Regional Planning Commission April newsletter.
Do we have any projects for the bike ped program?
If we want to do another scoping study, the West Street is high on my list to do a scoping study of a sidewalk alignment from in front of Holly Hall all the way down to Maple Street.
Let's do it. What do we?
Isn't there a sidewalk there now?
Sort of. It's the one that, well, there's not one in front of the gas station, and then it's zigzaggy by the post office, and it's generally in pretty poor condition. And there's not a sidewalk, it just ends. And then I think
Page and Campbell's driveway. Yeah, it ends at Page and Campbell's driveway.
and I think scoping study could explore how an alignment could be extended to Maple Street.
I'd support that. I mean, I really would like, to get better walking, especially since it's right next to Holly Hall, across the Champlain Farms, that area, which I know is a difficult thing, but that's why you have a scoping study. And especially in the post office, there's no ADA accessibility unless you're around the side and you're going through the parking lot, which is very dangerous. So it'd be great. And there really isn't any sidewalk because there's no curb or anything like that. It's sort of curved the opposite way at the post office, or there is no curb. It'd be great to get that done. I don't know what's involved and what your schedule is like, Val, to be able to put together that grant application.
Well, it's been on my radar for a while, so it's kind of already together in my head.
Okay. Okay, that's great. So do you know what our deadline is for that? What the timeline is for that?
Let's see.
Free on top.
I'm looking through the.
We can talk offline too if you want.
The deadline is June 8th.
Okay, so we're okay then.
Yeah.
Okay, great. I think that's great. Other business?
Nope. Just.
Yes. No. There we
did
go.
it.
And we do have executive session.
Yes, we do.
Okay.
For
Someone would like to
contract
make a motion.
negotiations and personnel.
Motion to go in executive session, anyone?
Make a motion, we go in executive session to contract negotiation per one VSA 313A 1A and personnel matters per one VSA 313A and 3 plus Val's contract. I did that. Okay.
Do you want Eric to stay?
Sure.
Okay.
Sorry.
So close, Eric.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. Motion and a second. All those in favor, raise your hand. Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those against, nay. Motion carries. We're in executive session. Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Jimmy.
You know, they could probably.
I figured you wanted to be in on the sidewalk discussion.
That would be a good.
Ian.